Hello everybody, Justin here, and welcome to this installment of the Great Video Game Inventory Project. One man's quest to play and document his entire massive video game collection. Today we are going to be looking at Kirby Superstar for the Super Nintendo. Now I absolutely love this game. I grew up with this game. It was one of my favorite Super Nintendo games growing up. I'm only at 87% here. That's probably the fault of the Great Cave Offensive. But since I know this game so well, I think I'll just give you an overview of all the modes, since it is advertised as multiple games in one. So the first game is Spring Breeze, which is very similar to the older Kirby games, in that it's just side-scrolling. Now, the cool thing about the powers in this game, as opposed to the old games, is that they control quite a bit differently. You can sort of liken them to, I guess, type moves, which is maybe why I enjoyed this game so much as a child. But you have different effects depending on button inputs and the like when you use the powers. So here we've got bomb. Like, we can influence the angle that we throw the bomb. You also have a dashing throw, and you also have a throw if you get in close. Whoop, like that. But let's go back. If you press A, you can create a helper. If you have two players, you can actually have the helper controlled by 2P. So spark here changes depending on how long you charge it. If you just press the button, you get the little thing like that. It doesn't do very much damage. If you charge it, you get a big blast. So it's sort of like a Mega Man type power. So we've got our first boss, Wispy Woods. Oop. Oh my goodness, I'm not gonna die to Wispy Woods. So that's probably good for a look at Spring Breeze, since it's easily the least interesting of all the games. I don't know if I can get out of this. So we're gonna reset real quick so I can get back to the menu. I think the rest you can get out of, but we'll find out. So next we've got Dynablade, which is quite a bit like Spring Breeze. Yeah, it does it every time, even if you say no. But you can skip it. I wonder if there's a soft reset in this game. Okay, so tip for all of you: you can press LR start and select, and that'll do a soft reset. So anyway, back to Dynablade. So you'll see that you've sort of got Mario type stage selection in Dynablade. That's really the main difference this has between Spring Breeze. There are a couple secret passageways to find. Cutter is a very useful power in this game, because you've got that cool little combo there, which Smash players might recognize. That's where it's from. Well, that's where it's originally from. Let's go get Parasol, though. Parasol is really probably more and I lost it. Parasol is really probably more powerful than Cutter, just because it's a very useful defensive power. And you also get like a little dive bomb there, which is really useful. Boop, 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 boop. So yeah, not too much to say here. It's still pretty uniform Kirby, like any Kirby game you've played. You'll probably find it familiar. But some interesting Kirby trivia for you. Shigeru Miyamoto actually envisioned Kirby as being yellow. Kirby, of course, the creation of the game development legend Gunpei Yokoi, who also is credited with the Game Boy and, sadly, the Virtual Boy, but hey, we can cut him a break. Tragically died in a car accident, I believe in the 90s. So, rest in peace, Mr. Yokoi. You were too good for this earth. Also in this game, you have blocking, which allows you to, well, block. And there's really no place in the game where you might actually need it, except for maybe the arena, but that's kind of pushing it. Because, like most Kirby games, this can be easy. So here I've got the Cook Power. But there's also several theories as to where Kirby's name comes from. Many people think it came from a Nintendo lawyer whose name is Kirby. Other people think that it might be relating to the Kirby line of vacuums. But to my knowledge, a definitive answer has never been given by Nintendo. That's probably enough of Dynablade. You get the gist of it. So let's move on to Revenge of Meta Knight. So this is the game that really made Meta Knight famous. He appeared in the other Kirby games, but he's got a really major, really is the first game to give him any sort of real character. So the thing with this mode is that you're timed. You'll see that there's a time limit. Of course, Kirby being an easy game, it's actually pretty hard to run out of time. Oh, come on. Unless I keep failing at these ladders. Ow! He hit me so hard that I phased through the elevator. Yo-Yo is definitely one of my favorite powers, even though I was kind of failing with it, because you've got a lot of versatility with Yo-Yo. You can go to the sides, you can go up, you can go down, and you have a little special maneuver there that seemed to cause a bit of lag. So this is actually an unwinnable boss battle here, because you're blown out to... Wing is also a really cool power, just because of the mobility options it gives you, and thank you, Yo-Yo Helper, for killing Wing. Wing gets you extremely mobile, and it does some really good damage on top of it. Wing allows you to move very quickly, but unfortunately is not an underwater power. There aren't very many underwater powers in this game. There's, of course, Hammer, Sword, Parasol. Those are the only ones I can immediately recall. There's some way you can cancel the downward dive, because I speedrun, but I can't recall how to do it at the moment, so I won't. But that's probably a good enough look at Dynablade. Obviously, you get a climactic battle with Meta Knight. Not Dynablade, Meta Knight. You'll also notice that the little icons at the select screen change depending on which game you're in, which is a nice little touch. So let's go to the Gourmet Race, which has the the song that everyone knows because it was remixed in Smash Brothers. Let's go with me. So I'm doing time trial here. Normally you'd be racing King DDD, but I'm just showing off like a little part of it. And you've got all these traps here. And normally there'd be a lot of food because the goal is to get a bunch of food and reach the finish line. But yeah, it's just a race to the finish, so it's good enough on that. And Great Cave Offensive. Great Cave Offensive is really interesting. It's probably the most interesting. Well, yeah, I'd agree that it's probably the most interesting game mode. It's not my favorite. Mostly, everyone who plays this game has the same favorite mode, which I'll be getting to in a second. But essentially, you look for different treasures. So you're sort of like Treasure Hunter Kirby. Now, I was talking about being fighting game-esque before. Fighter is definitely the biggest allusion to this, because he has effectively a Hadouken, a Shoryuken, and I guess you can kind of call the dashing attack or Hurricane Kick. But the goal is to find all the treasures, and it's just one giant map. So there's no stages or levels or anything. There are bosses every once in a while, but you see there, a lot of the treasures are hidden behind puzzles like that, because if I would have blown up the middle one here, I would have made it impassable. So yeah, that's the... I'm gonna spend too long doing all this stuff. I actually just got a new computer, and so this is my first capture on the computer, and I want to make sure that it's okay, so I don't want to make a recording too long, just in case I've got to throw it out, which would be sad. So this is probably... well, this is one of my favorite little mini games. This is the Megaton Punch. Screwed up. I got my final one correct. It's a timing game. Sort of like, you can think of it as sort of like a golf game. I'll wait for this guy to go first, so I'm not distracted by his inputs. Man, none of that was perfect. That's sad. Didn't do bad though. I used to be able to get this perfect every time. Man, I'm out of practice. Still, that's enough to get me the win. Well, this is just level 1, so it's really not that difficult. I mean, even the further levels really aren't that difficult. And next we'll go into Samurai Kirby. This is a reaction-based minigame. So when the exclamation point appears, you've got to press the button. I'm not sure if the exclamation point appears at the same time every time, or if it's RNG. But you'll notice that my weapons are changing depending on my enemy. I got a tie. It was a little slower. I was 16 there. So let's see if I can get to 15 and beat him. Ah, too early. I was trying to anticipate there and I failed. After DDD is Meta Knight, and he's really hard, even on the easiest setting. So now let's go to the here, Milky Way Wishes. Let's just continue. It'll be easier that way. I must be missing some powers, but anyway, the thing that makes Milky Way Wishes unique is that you don't, yeah, I'm missing some powers. You don't swallow enemies to get abilities. You find little pedestals with the abilities instead. So you can have every ability, you can have any ability you want at any given time, assuming you found the ability. But of course you've got to find it first. So I can do yo-yo craziness anywhere I want. And you saw that the stage select screen was sort of odd. So in this one, actually going through doors changes the season, so that's the big twist for this. But let's go back to the map. How did I get there? Okay. So let's see, how far into the last level does it bring me? Okay. So here the game suddenly, this is the last level of Milky Way Wishes. I just wanted to show this off because it's kind of interesting. Because the game suddenly becomes a shooter. Go figure. And this is the only time this happens, though you do replay part of this stage in the arena. But I mean, it's not a terribly, oh my goodness, it's not a terribly difficult shooter just because you've got plenty of hits. Though you can see that the bullets are kind of small. Ow. Well, I've made it to the next phase. So this is where you're actually in the arena. And this is actually going to be kind of close. Yeah, I died. But I'll be able to start there, so not a huge deal. Aww. I thought I was low enough. Apparently not. Well, let's try this again. Failure. Alrighty. There we go. That's how it's supposed to go. Then we go backwards and kill that guy. Now it's time for the final fight against Marks. And the plot of Milky Way Wishes is Marks here was using special powers. He said he was trying to bring peace to Popstar, but instead he used it to turn himself into like an all-powerful being. We're gonna guard here for the sake of safety. Oh my, and I failed again. My goodness. I'm supposed to be good at this game. Okay. There is also a re-release for this game on DS that adds a couple new things, including a bigger, badder version of Marks. So, if you don't have access to a Super Nintendo, I think this might be on Virtual Console as well, but if neither of those is an option, you can get it through the DS as well. So you'll see there, since I guarded, I took like no damage. So guarding makes an already easy game even. Oh crap, black hole. That is one thing that can actually hurt you even if you're guarding, because it counts as a throw. I think it is possible to destroy those while they're falling. But whatever. Yeah, that can hit you too, because that's classified as a grab. Even though it did like no damage. Probably because I was guarding. Well, the animation still plays at least. He's almost dead, folks. There we go. Marks is dead. Whee! So yeah, in one of these I get to show you an ending. Woo! But I think that'll be about it for this installment of the Great Video Game Inventory Project. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. This is Justin signing out.